Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. And with me today, Debra Hayes from MGM Private Capital in Wisconsin. Definitely looking forward to our conversation. Deb, how are you?
I'm good, Jason. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you can make it. So Deb and I have probably known each other, going on maybe 2 years through the Hard Money Mastermind group. And, definitely have seen her private lending portfolio and skill set and knowledge base kind of grow. I guess their business in general, private lending business. And this isn't obviously your first business that you've ever started. You're an attorney. You've owned quite a bit of real estate in the past and things like that. So maybe let's just start there. Tell us just a little bit of background of yourself, Deb, and then maybe how you got started in the private lending world.
Yeah, so I took a circuitous way. I used to do foreclosures, residential foreclosures as an attorney, and then commercial foreclosures, and then litigation in general. And that was brutal. That was just a brutal process. Nobody wins. So I went back to school for dispute resolution and got a master's from Marquette. And then this job appeared. It was a blend of foreclosure and mediation during the foreclosure crisis. So I worked with Marquette Law School and the Department of Justice, and we designed a foreclosure mediation program. We started in Milwaukee County, and then we threw it out to all 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin and traveled across the U.S. teaching people how to create these programs that basically got a lender and a borrower to a table where they could talk about alternatives to foreclosure. So I got to know the default cycle pretty well. I got to know the players involved, not only lenders, but also the attorneys representing distressed borrowers. And then in 2013-14, fortunately, the foreclosure volume started to tail off. And then I thought, okay, my budget is only so much, and part of it is fee generated. Now's a time for me to step off. And so I put my second in command, and I bought my first property at a sheriff's sale and auction. We're a judicial foreclosure state in Wisconsin. And I used my retirement money, and it was a purchase of $614,000, an executive home in one of the suburbs. And from there, that went really well. We sold it. I had a partner at that time for $805,000. And then we focused on luxury properties because there wasn't a lot of competition at the auctions for anything north of, $500,000. And then, it just seems like when one door closes, one door opens. We couldn't find affordable property to buy anymore because everybody and their brother were coming to the auctions. There was standing room only. And a lot of them were self-performing the work, and we wouldn't bid what they would bid. So then I had capital, and I started talking to people at the sheriff's sale and saying, do you have all the capital you need? And started lending to those people. And then it just took off.
Yeah, good point, and good little tip for anyone that's looking to find deals is auction buyers typically are full-time real estate investors, and they're constantly buying properties. And I know I've mentioned that before as a good source, and that was definitely something early on. And you got to get your hands dirty, right? You got to actually leave your office or your desk in order to go find those people
at the courthouse.
Yeah, but they're definitely good types. And what I've come, and a little tip that you probably can also tell people, but one thing that I've learned from that is, some of those people will come off as offended. If it's like, what do you mean? I'm not going to use hard money rates. They're expensive, blah, 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 blah. And that's okay, right? But by going back to them and saying, I get it, use your bank, use your personal cash, use your line of credit. But I don't ever want you to miss out on an opportunity because you don't have the funds to do that. So think of me as your backup plan. Or if you have somebody that you're wholesaling this property to, or a friend that needs it, let me know and we'll see what we can do. And I'm sure that helps you kind of grow your book of business of those types of investors.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of blossomed is I went through a coaching program. The RIA organizations have mentoring programs. Yep. And I went through that in the beginning, and then I began lending money to my coach so he could lend it out at a spread to the other students. And then once the students completed the program, I could lend to them directly. So that became a whole nother source of not only loan clients, but investors. Some of my biggest investors now are those people that have gotten very, very successful, and they have excess capital.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip. Yeah, and you didn't work completely backwards, but you started with the end of understanding the foreclosure process and, you know, the legal side of things that so many lenders don't even think about. Like, step one is, hey, where am I going to get the capital for these deals, or where am I going to get the deals to lend capital to? And you know, I think for better or worse, you know, you understand kind of what happens on the back end. And, you know, sometimes it could be a detriment because you're just like, I don't want to do this because I don't want to have to go through this freaking process if this deal defaults, because this is going to be a headache. But, you know, at the same time, it's realistic, and you understand the process when, you know, deals default in due time.
Right.
And you do enough loans. It doesn't matter how good they are. If they're, you know, 10 LTV to, you know, 10 LTV, 50 LTV, 80 LTV, whatever you want to, deals are going to default. Things happen. And most deals, you realize default are the ones that you would never expected to default in the beginning. Like, stuff just happens and
Right.
things change. So it's good that you kind of have that experience. Like, do you feel like you wear your, like, what hat do you feel like you wear on a regular basis? Like, do you wear your, like, I'm a conservative attorney hat? Do you wear like a sales hat? A business owner hat? You know, I know that's kind of a tough question to answer, but there's lots of different hats that we all kind of have.
Right. So I can't help but think of everything that could go wrong. It's just the first thing that comes to my brain as an attorney, everything that can go wrong, and then making a plan for it. A business owner, I guess I don't think of myself so much as that. Sales, definitely. You know, you're selling every day. You're selling yourself. You're selling that you're credible, that you're not a thief, you know, with your investors. They're entrusting you with huge amount of money. So I'm getting more in tune with being a business owner, long-term planning, making widgets, hamburgers. You know, I scaled organically too soon. I would have rather scaled while I had all my systems in place, but that was painful to scale when things are still a bit unfinished.
Yeah, that's good and bad. The other side of that is if you put all your systems in place and they're never fully in place, and then you never get to scale, so that forces you to, right? So there's two sides of that, and I don't disagree with you. And go ahead.
No, you're right. That would be sitting at your desk just waiting for a loan.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I got my phone. You know, I got my phone. I got my computer. I got some money I need to lend. Now what? So that's not a bad thing. And I think all of us collectively, when it comes down to it on the 11th hour, like, we get it done. You know, back in the day when we started and, you know, we had loans that we had to close and we didn't necessarily know where every dollar capital was coming from. It's like, okay, well, this is our focus for 100% of the day is raise another $200,000 so we can close this loan. And when you get put in that situation, that uncomfortable situation, like, you make do and you make it work. And, you know, there's a lot of folks that, you know, we both know that are in like the mastermind group, and they're still at like the capital raising phase, and they have a good book of business. But, and listen, I'm all about being focused on finding good deals and opportunities every day. I think that's important. But, you know, I think they're timid a little bit of, you know, trying to take it to the next level. And it's just like, if you really want to take it to the next level, start putting good deals, like home run deals in the pipeline, because the capital will follow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just hired my first employee, and I think she'll probably be my last. I think she's excellent. I don't think I've decided that I don't have to get to the level of some of the people in the mastermind group that are over 100 million. I mean, and by the way, pitch for the group. If you're considering it, do it. I more than doubled my business and tripled my profit. So, and that's in a year and a half. I can't say enough good things. A lot of smart people in the room. Now I lost my train of thought. I'm thinking 12 million is about good for me. I pushed out some numbers and I thought, okay, you know, I'm at about 9 right now. So I've got a little bit to go yet. But I did land that 800,000 that I was telling you about over the weekend.
Excellent.
And another 250 yesterday. So I mean, I think it's
You never
gonna fall
know.
into place.
You never know what direction it'll go in, right? Things like when we started, our goal was about 20 million, right? Like we
Mhm.
felt like that was a big number that we didn't even think we could even hit, right?
Right,
Like you put these crazy things in place. I was like, oh, there's not even enough loans to
right,
the whole marketplace. There's not $20 million of new originations, which is
right.
obviously completely crazy. This is also pre-institutional capital, so you didn't realize how exploded the market
Mhm.
get. But like goals change, and then I think we all realize that this is an investment vehicle as much as a business, and we think as investors.
Right.
And when you put your own capital into play, you can achieve, a 20% rate of return, a very high interest rate of return. So, in essence, you can do half as much deals, make the same amount of money if it's your own capital.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah.
an interesting. Can we talk about the I don't know if you said this was a man or woman that in your office that you hired, like it's a woman,
It's a
right?
woman. Right.
What's she like where'd you find her first, like when you hired her, like where'd you find her, and like what do you think what's her position title, and what do you think she's going to be responsible for doing every day?
She's a portfolio manager, loan processor.
Okay.
Like portfolio manager for her resume. Loan processing is what she's doing day to day. And we are both learning this software program together. And
Excellent.
she, at some point, I'll hand off the terms of the loan to her, and she'll take it from there in terms of loan documents, collecting everything that needs to be collected from the title company, the borrower, and just get it teed up for closing. And then she'll follow it through servicing and pay off in satisfaction. I want to step away from that as much as I can while
Yeah.
keeping quality control in place.
Yeah.
That will allow me to work more with the relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
better.
not-
I'm not good at the super detail things you think I would be as a lawyer, but my attention span just gets kind of, after so
Yeah.
many pages.
I mean, most of us are in the exact same place, and the good part is now you know how to do all of this stuff, but like you don't have to do the keystrokes of it.
Right.
And the keystrokes, are the important part. So that's a big move. I mean, hiring someone now, they work out of their house or your office, they full time.
She started out part-time, not like 20 hours a week. Now she's up to about 35 hours a week. And I let her decide. I have a desk for her here in my office. She can work here or she can work remotely. She's got a couple big dogs, so it's hard for her to leave them alone. And I understand that because I'm the same way.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's typically one good first hire is that the processing of loans and doing the paperwork is a pain in the neck. And in essence, you want to go out, you want to sell, you get that deal committed to proceed, and it's like, great, that part's done. The rest, let's just get this thing to the table. So that's good. Now, is she gonna do anything like bookkeeping, like back end stuff, or not really?
I use QuickBooks and I'll retain.
Like you'll send wires and
Oh yeah.
and draw requests. I mean, I'm not saying we'll talk about draw requests in a second. I mean, wires, so you'll still send them. And keep in mind,
Right.
even if you have someone doing some of these things, there's still ways that you can quality control them to do it. So like, I'll give you a quick example of what we do in our office. So our portfolio manager, our process. So let's just say the people that in essence touch the wire, let's just call it, is our portfolio manager, processor, AKA processor, and also our controller. So our portfolio manager, in essence, gets the wired instructions, from the title company or from the borrower. If we're going to do it, she verifies them, right? She calls them and verifies it. In essence, like, signs off on that. And then instead of emailing them to our controller, she actually does a link through Google Drive, one extra level of protection, right? Mm-hmm. That it goes through Google Drive. Our controller puts it into the bank, and then Chris, or if Chris isn't here, me, approves it in the bank. So, so it's a way to really prevent any, malicious activity, I suppose. So technically she could help with some of that stuff, I guess, if needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, she doesn't have a background in lending or title company. She worked for 35 years at Harley.
Wow.
Milwaukee is the capital of Harley Davidson home. And she got laid off because they're downsizing.
Yep.
And She was in supply chain, but her whole thing was detail oriented. She is so detail oriented. She's a taskmaster, which is exactly what I needed.
Excellent. Did you give her a dispersonality assessment?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
So
at
she
someone's suggestion, I might add.
So she was, let me guess, she was high C and a little bit of S.
Yep.
Perfect.
You got it.
That's the position. Any I or not much I and D?
Not that I recall.
So in that case, because there's not much I, then in essence, the front facing with the customer might be hard for her.
She's
maybe
great
not.
on the phone. She's
okay, good.
Super
if she's
professional.
good on the phone, then that's perfect because that is a, there is, that's one, high I personality type is they're very good with customers front facing on the phone, off the phone. But if she's good on the phone, then that's good.
Yeah.
No, that's the demo.
And she doesn't have to work. She's working because she enjoys it. She told me she's working. She's working because she wants to fix me.
That's her project.
Yep.
Well, that's a good one. And hopefully she'll understand the model and buy into the power and the value of like, hey, like we're helping real estate investors and we're also helping our capital investors turn this into an and we're helping us as turning this into a long-term legacy wealth investment vehicle. And I think soon as you can find someone that understands that in the business, and that's, employees, and that's hard to do, but like, I think that's a powerful thing. And one thing that you said that we've had success with as well is pretty much every one of our employees didn't have background in this either.
Okay.
And I think sometimes that's, it can be a flaw, maybe not on the processing side. I think if they do have a background on this on the processing side, not that it helps, but they realize how fortunate they are because processing regular mortgage loans is awful.
Right.
So they realize it's like, wow, this is actually good. Like I like this, and they're motivated about it. So I think that's fine. But what I've learned is if they came from the mortgage background, like a mortgage broker, and they want to be like a salesperson for you, they have bad habits. Like they think like a broker, they don't think like an investor. And I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but like ones that we've tried to work with in the past, they think like, hey, I'm going to do whatever I can, make a commission, close the deal. And then, my job's over. But it's like, not really. Your job's over when the loan repays, right? Like it's not about just making a quick, few points. So, and that's not everybody. But I can see that challenge and I get it. Like it's a different type of sales activity. Most sales activity, you get paid when you close the deal and then that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why there was in part a foreclosure crisis, right? Segregating those functions.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think kind of like next step growth is going to be? Like, what do you have now that you have her in place and, half of your brain is completely cleared out because you're like, one less thing I got to worry about. She's going to help me get to my next level. Like, what's your kind of like growth thoughts and stuff that you want to be focused on?
Well, we're still in the process of migrating all this data into Baseline so that we can do tax reports for this tax year. So it's a lot of, I hope to finish that by the end of the year. But once that's all in, we're just using the software as it should be. That's a really good question. I think I'm going to have more time, honestly. It'll be growing the portfolio, both the borrowers. I don't even have a website, Jason.
Well, let's do that. That's you got to jump that in. You already have MGM Private Capital. We can talk about what that means here in a second, but maybe that's your next step is try to get some social media accounts and some exposure. So if you don't have a website, how have you been getting leads and raising capital? Let's talk about that.
It's all word of mouth. I might just, mention it to somebody like at the gym. Oh, where are you going? I'm headed to work. What do you do? Well, it's kind of odd what I do. Really? Well, yeah. There's a gentleman at the gym that's working with me $1 million, and I just met him at the gym. So it's been weird. And the same with the borrowers. I've had, you wouldn't expect one loan client to refer you to a different loan client, but they do.
Oh, they do. No doubt.
Yeah, because it's kind of their competition. They want to save you, right? But I'm like, no, I'll always find the capital. Don't worry about that. But I think it's going to be website, social media. As you've said, and I can almost quote this in my sleep, the quality of your loans is going to depend on your funnel. And that's what I'm going to focus on, is improving the quality of my loans and kind of tightening up the terms with my investors.
Well, yeah. And keep in mind, working by referral and getting deals from people that and things like that. That's fine. That's part of the game. But there's also ways, that's putting, spending time on doing that. But there's also leverage that you can utilize from the internet. And I think that's, that's important. And, one day that guy from the gym will go to another gym and he's be like, who's that lady Deb that, was talking to me about this? Like, I think I'm ready to invest money with her. Or I have somebody that I want to refer to do a loan. She doesn't know who you are because you're not on her email database, right? So that's what it's about. It's not necessarily about getting a deal closed tomorrow that came in today. It's about following up with somebody so then in a year from now they know who you are. I mean, this is true. We've had people that we close loans for 10 or 15 years later. I know that sounds crazy, but we'll go back because we're very good about putting in our we have a pipeline sheet that we're always hawking and looking at. And I'm always where'd that deal come from? Especially from our other offices, because I'm curious to see where deals are coming from, so we know where to put marketing efforts and dollars and things like that. And it's they came from this Google AdWord campaign 10 years ago, and they've been in our email database ever since. You never know. And that's where the real growth comes from, when you can churn those repeat people over and over and over and over, and people you talked to before. So,
I would say, Jason, I would say 85% of my business is repeat business. I mean, they're successful at what they do. I mean, one gal, she's like, I don't take a deal unless I make at least 50 grand. And how do you find these? But she does.
She does. Yep.
Yeah.
So you lend in the whole state of Wisconsin, correct? Or just in one area, or just in the southeast of Wisconsin, I should say. Yeah,
primarily the southeast. But we were chatting earlier, and I like bigger deals. As long as the economy is strong. I know that those are the first markets to get hit when things turn downward, but I don't see that happening. And you mentioned Lake Geneva. I mean, just some of the resort areas in Wisconsin. Those would be ones I'd be targeting at. But Milwaukee, it's a lot of investors from out of the country or out of the state are coming into Milwaukee. It's pretty good bang for your buck. So there's and it's old housing stock. There's just a lot of activity there.
What's the median housing price of in the areas that you're lending in?
I can tell you my average loan is $200,000.
Okay, so maybe 300-ish or so.
Yeah,
that's a good price point.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed about Wisconsin is less price sensitivity, because we both know a few lenders in Wisconsin. And what are you guys charging now? 12 and 4, 13 and 4, 14 and 4.
I'm 12.9 and 3.9.
Oh, okay. 12.9 and 3.9.
Laugh at me, just say what it is. I'm like, no, I can be
wrong. No, that's the right way to do it. I mean, we changed from 13 to 12.9 a few, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago. At this point, everything feels like it was recently, but it was probably longer than that. And it's so funny because I tell people 12.99. Half the people say, oh, so 13%. And the other half say, oh, 12%. And I'm like, exactly. So and that's the point. Right. So it's fine. And I actually thought about doing two, because we're 12.99 and 3. I did think about doing 12.99 and 2.99. The only reason I did not do 2.99 is I can't I don't know how fast I could calculate some of those in my head on some of the funky loan amounts.
Yeah.
On $100,000, on the whole numbers, 50,000, 100,000, that's easy. But if it was I don't know, $165,000 loan, I'd have to think. Right. I'd have to think about it more. It wouldn't come right off my head.
Right. So, yeah. Keep it simple, right?
But hey, it's whatever works. Do you think there's enough loan volume for you in that particular area, or do you think in the future you'll expand in other parts of the state or even further south into Chicago?
So I did a search with one of my loan clients. Also has a title company, and I don't remember what program he used, but he did a search for me of all the loans generated in the past quarter, and I gave them like 6 names as mortgagees. So then I knew what the market was. And there's a lot of business here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, please, well, it is what it is, but there's a lot of business here. I don't think I'll need to go outside of southeastern Wisconsin, but I would like to get into Lake Geneva. They call I'm in the suburbs of Milwaukee, and they call it Lake Country because we have a lot of lakes. So there's a lot of lake property, and I know that pretty well. And I'd like to focus more on those areas.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. I mean, I think everyone should be focusing on, higher
Price
Let's
points.
talk about fees. I mean, yeah, price points, but like fees, like the most profitable type of stuff. Like nobody needs to do 10 deals a month if you can make all the money you want to make in 2 or 3.
Yeah, I just did a little list for November. I'm at about 1.1 million, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 7 deals. I'd like that to be 5 deals.
Yeah, I agree. And let me tell you, like bigger loan amounts move the needle. We'll do like I could do, whatever 6, 7, 8 loans to get to like 1.5 million, or I could just do a $1.5 million deal. And it's easier said than done. And in my mind, hey, let's do both. But it really does move the needle. And at least in our experience, the bigger loans are easier.
Mm-hmm.
The borrowers are more qualified typically because they have more cash down, right? If you're going to put down,
Right.
20% on $100,000 or $1 million, like just dollar signs, they're not negotiating pricing all that much different. Not that we do negotiate on pricing, but like, even if we did, like it's not much different, but they're safer. Like, I just think they're safer deals. We're not talking about super stuff. We're not talking about highest end. We're talking about higher median housing price. So if like your median housing price neighborhoods, $300,000 and, you're doing a $500,000 price point. I'm not talking about $2 million, like high rise condo overlooking Lake Michigan. I don't know if they have that there, but like I'm not talking about that type of stuff. I'm talking about just higher end stuff. Because let's be honest, if you're taking a 65% LTV and you have 35% equity cushion, would you rather 35% equity cushion on a $100,000 property or a $300,000 property? You're talking $195,000 in equity over $35,000 in equity because you're looking at the dollar, not just the percentage. And that's something that I think a lot of lenders are still struggling with. Where it's like, well, I made them put down 20%. I'm like, yeah, but like, they don't have that much money, or 10%. It's like, they don't have that much money. They don't have real skin in the deal still. So, again, will the deal perform? Is it a good quality borrower? Probably. But, the more skin they have, a little bit less risk.
Those higher end rehabs too, they're newer homes. You're not going to be dealing with lead paint and asbestos and nastiness. They're just going to be making it super beautiful. And maybe opening some walls and adding some square footage, finishing the basement. I do see those as less risk.
All good point. Is there anything I missed that you think would be valuable to our viewers, our audience about Deb that I should ask you?
Yeah.
That would help hard money lenders in general. Something that you've done that's potentially would help help people. Software processes, background experience, things like that.
I would say go to those meetups, as many meetups as you can when you're starting out. It's not always comfortable. It's not always fun. It takes time away in the evening, but it's really a great place to start making those connections consistently.
I agree.
Yeah.
How can somebody reach out to you in the future if they, just want to chat? I know you don't have a website, so I can't give them your website.
No, I don't have, but I will. You can look me up on the Better Business Bureau. I've got a page there.
How about the yellow pages? If
right.
If you live in Wisconsin.
You could. My email is Debra@mgmprivatecapital.com.
Perfect.
And the email is my main thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And then when you do get a website, is it going to be mgmprivatecapital.com?
Yeah, it's already like under construction. I have the domain; it's halfway built. But
all right. Well, can I put an accountability project on your to-do list?
What's my deadline? Let's negotiate here a little bit.
It'll be like, I can hold you accountable for everyone that's going to be listening to this. And in essence, it'll say that if they go to MGM Private Capital on January 1st at 1 a.m, that there's going to be a website live. So based on when we're recording this, you have about 41 days to do it. Is that a good accountability project for you?
All right. How about
you have 41 days just to get something basic up. You don't need it to be some you don't have to overthink a macked out website. Just an easy website where borrowers can go, credibility, learn a little bit about you, your operation, and if they want to apply for a loan, they can put it in like a simple 5-field form to apply for a loan. That's it.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
All right, Deb. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye now.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.